And welcome to another episode of the Accountant Success Secrets podcast. I'm Philip Haynes of Insight 101.
And I'm Mark Lee of Bookmark Lee. In this podcast, we like to showcase and celebrate successful accountants who've been running their own practice for a good few years and who we think can inspire and encourage other accountants in practice around the UK.
Absolutely. We ask them to share their stories, including the highs, the lows, and what they've learned along the way. Our aim is to provide some fundamental insights for you, our loyal listener. If you would like to share your story in a similar way, please do get in touch with Mark or myself.
Absolutely. And we're now booking into January 2025. Amazing.
We are.
This podcast is sponsored by Pinnacle, a trusted outsourcing partner with over 100 clients in the UK and Ireland. Pinnacle's CEO, Mayank Pandya, is a chartered accountant based in London, and he has a passion to encourage innovation and excellence in the accounting profession. Pinnacle has offices in the UK and offshore delivery centres across India, employing over 250 high-quality staff. With a strong focus on quality assurance, Pinnacle has helped many UK accounting firms to scale their capacity and operations, and you've probably seen them exhibiting at one of the many conferences and events around the UK. To find out more, please visit www.pinnacleoss.co.uk. You'll also find the link online wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Great. So let's get started. And today on our podcast, we are delighted to introduce Joan Adams of Adams O'Rourke. And we start by congratulating her as the firm recently received yet another Accountancy Excellence Award. That's number 2, I think. And they've also had a Xero Award winner in 2023. So in this podcast, as you know, we focus on the person behind the practice, and Joan set up Adams O'Rourke Accountants just 6 years ago after having been a director in a couple of other firms. So she's got a great story to tell. She's already told us quite a few learnings, so I'm really interested to hear more. She's had 20 years of accountancy expertise, and this includes invaluable blue chip industry experience.
Welcome, Joan. I'm sorry, I'm distracted because my phone's buzzing away in my pocket.
Oof.
Surreptitiously. Joan, is there anything else you'd like to add by way of intro?
Oh, wow. No, other than to say morning, guys, I'm just so, I'm really pleased to be here and happy to share any of my learnings along the way, if that can help anybody else who is in the role of building their practice and serving their clients.
Great.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for making the Accountant Success Secrets podcast your first foray into being interviewed on a podcast.
Woo!
As you know, we aim to keep the podcast to around 30 minutes, and we do that by focusing the discussion around a few key questions. And I start with a combination. What attracted you to start your own practice, and how did you go about doing that?
Well, that's a super easy question to answer, Mark. So I had, as you mentioned before, my background is industry. I'm a senior accountant. I am a management accountant through and through. And the role that I had, my last role with Unilever, really super environment to be in, high energy. But my role included an awful lot of travel, which sounds really glamorous. But actually, jumping on a plane once a week, it just becomes a big bus in the sky. And so that actually coincided with, we've got 3 children. And our eldest 25, the 2 girls 17 and 18. And the decision to move into practice coincided with us extending our family, having the 2 girls in quick succession, realizing can't go back to industry. I'm going to design a job that works for me.
Oh, well done, you. And how did you get your? And this was the first of the practice, obviously some years ago, judging from the ages of the kids now. How did you go about getting your first clients?
So I clearly wanted to keep it very low level, just part-time, essentially, logged into Companies House Incorporated with 2 babies on my knee. all along, the practice has been built by referral. So initially, all my original clients, many of whom are still clients today, they came forward as referrals in the beginning.
That's great.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to ask that. Obviously, you've had you've been in the corporate world, and I actually worked for Unilever at one point, or supported them. Yes. So we have stories to tell there. But since you left, and obviously there've been a few twists and turns there. What's happened between the moment you left industry and where you are now? Because it sounds to me like you've done a few things. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, totally, Philippa. So of course, I mean, wanted to essentially build a second career that fitted in with our work-life balance. The move from industry to practice was huge for me. I went from being in a really, really big role with a fair bit of influence with engineers, project managers, working with lots of people outside of our process area, coming to just being a team of me in practice. And sometimes I do call it a move to the dark side. Essentially, all of a sudden I was presented with having to prepare stat accounts, having to prepare VAT returns and understanding payroll. And this is never something I've been involved in before. All of my activity was transfer pricing, management account, strategic planning. Other departments did that work. So I suppose in the first instance, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, having to go back and relearn all of those things, which is why it really suited me well to just gently let the practice build via referrals. And I suppose in the beginning as well, I wasn't as confident because it was such a big change. So whereas now the name of the business carries my name, at the start it was called Express Accounts because at the time I thought that was a good fit for the business, a good label for what it was that I thought clients needed in the beginning before we got started. So that's, I suppose, the early days in a nutshell. But what I would say is very quickly when I started to take on these clients in the very beginning, some of these clients would come to me from very big accountancy firms in London, in the city. One of my first referrals was an angel investor, so I ended up picking up several companies who were all based in London. So even though I sit here in Liverpool still today, the majority of our clients are not based in the Northwest. They're a mix across the country. But yeah, I was really shocked when I would take over those accounts at how poor the accounts were for some of these really big firms, which I was expecting to be the poor relation, not the other way around. And two, I was so surprised that these really ambitious SME businesses who were wanting to, really go places either at the start of their journey or push to be even better a few years into their journey, I was surprised at how little support that they had in terms of knowing their numbers, understanding their financials, and, working to a plan and a budget, which had been second nature to me in industry. So I've had a heart for that all along, I suppose. But yeah, that shapes the first part of my career in practice, and is also why I was an early adopter of Xero back in 2011. We started to use it, and it was actually one of our clients who introduced it to me.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So what have you learned then? I mean, because when we talked, you had a few kind of stops and starts, and started all over again and that sort of thing. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, sure.
Accountants become Adams O'Rourke.
Yeah, and that's a good one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, guys. So, happily let the business build on its own. Again, it just continued to build via referrals. Even today, I would say that there has never been any significant marketing activity for the business, which will change now. Will
Doesn't
change.
need it. Doesn't need it.
But that is it's been lovely to have built this way. Of course, if I had have put more effort into marketing activity, it could have gone faster, but the cadence of the growth suited my work-life balance.
That's important.
Totally. And then it got to, I suppose, around the 2019 mark, and the children were getting older. I was still feeling, I've got ambition, I've got, ability. I really want to push and see how far I can take things on the practice side of the accounting fence. But I struggled with how to go about doing that. And what happened at one point in time was I decided, actually, well, maybe I need to partner up with another practice as being, I suppose, one, a bit of a comfort blanket, but also two, an accelerant to pushing the business into full time and taking it to the next level. And what I will say is that experience only lasted 6 months. And it wasn't a nice experience. But what I would say, and I wish everyone well who was involved, there's no ill feeling at all. But what I will say is, one, there's no silver bullet to problems like that.
Absolutely.
Two, I took away so many learnings from that short period of time that actually I realized, we don't have the same values. The outcomes that could be provided for clients as that, joint venture were not actually the outcomes that I had always wanted for my clients. So it wasn't great, and as not great as it was, what it did do was give me enormous rocket fuel to go, okay, snap out of this now. You know who the clients are that you like to work with. You know what you want to achieve for your clients. If you're clear on that, and you know the success of your business is based on the success of your clients, let's start from scratch. Let's change the name. Let's move away from that old name of Express Accounts, which is just fairly generic. And I thought that's what clients would want. But actually, it isn't what clients want. What clients want is they want a trust relationship. They want to feel supported. I always want them to feel like they really appreciate the 360-degree care that we give them, which is why, at that point in time, I was like, right, I'm going for this now, full time from now on, brand new name for the business. It's Adams O'Rourke, which is me, Joan Adams, plus my maiden name. Not the most imaginative name, I know, but at the time I was thinking, I'm owning this and I'm going for it, and that is the journey of the name change.
Brilliant. So who are your clients then? You said I knew what the service was and who my clients were, and that, in many ways you've just won an award for client transformation. So what's that all about then? Tell us a little bit.
Oh, wow. So I suppose in terms of the client part, before I come to the award, Philippa, I'm sure there are lots of other people out there who maybe had the same as me, which was I always felt uncomfortable because I was never clear on my niche. And I just could not come to a clean decision of I want to work with this industry, or I want to work with this trade or this profession, because I could see that value could be added across the board. And so then I gave myself permission to be really clear that, okay, Joan, your niche isn't going to be an industry or a profession. Your niche is going to be the client type. And so for me, I absolutely love working with ambitious businesses. Typically, this doesn't encase all of them, typically north of 500K with small teams, ambitious to grow, more often than not in the service sector, but not always, where we can add all of the value in terms of focusing forward, delivering the plan, working to that plan. Because over time, what I get to see is, one, I know that's what big business does, and they do it. Unilever, Rolls-Royce, these guys have pots of cash. They only do this because it works. And two, if small businesses are able to focus their efforts and resources and concentration on a plan and know where they're going, then instead of having a random walk that's much slower, what you'll find is, it's like this, then what you'll find is it's a much shorter journey with fewer bumps along the road. So that's the client type that we work with. We talk to clients all year round. Generally, the full compliance plus quarterly or monthly management accounts, maybe planning, forecasting as well, depending on their setup. So that's the type of clients we work with. Do you want me to have the award?
Yeah. And it will come to that. I just wanted to sort of clarify and summarise, if I may. That client type is partly a function of being CIMA qualified, having worked in industry, and having the knowledge and experience, the ability and the drive to focus on that type of client and to be able to deliver the services that you know that they need. Which, I know a number of accountants that might aspire to that type of client, but don't have your background and training or what's now evolved, that level of confidence, because you described that so effectively. And I also just wanted to pick up on the fact that even just in the way you spoke, and whilst you didn't say it explicitly, I know there are 4 values featured on your website: trust, clarity, relationship, and accountability. And you wove those into what you were talking about. So you're living the values. They're not just words on your website. So well done for that as well.
Oh, thank you, Mark. That's a great observation. I didn't realise I'd done that, but that is because I'm living through them. So thank you so much.
Exactly.
No, you're right. What you've just said there is super spot on. I know there are huge conversations within the industry about the delivery of advisory. I'm not sure what I think of the label advisory, but we don't have a better one at the moment, so that's fine. But I do feel, one, I am confident because this is my bread and butter. I've had the blessing of being trained by really great businesses in this, and also coming through the CIMA route. So I can see what this does for clients, which is why it's easy for me to do. And also it's part of the job where I will get in my car after a meeting where we've made a big difference, and I'll be driving home and I'll be like, yes, today I love my job, because it's high energy, that part of it. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't happen every day. That's not a daily occurrence at all. But yeah, that's the part that I feed from.
We can all relate to that. So let's go back to Philippa's question about the Client Transformation Award and why that was important to you.
Oh gosh, yeah, no. So I again feel super blessed with this. We were actually shortlisted to be finalists for 2 awards this year, Sole Practitioner and the Client Transformation Award. And we got a commendation for Sole Practitioner, which is lovely, really lovely. But I was super proud to have the Client Transformation Awards. Just a second on awards on their own. I know that people can have lots of opinions about awards and so on. But for me, what I get from these awards is I get to go back and tell my clients and talk to them straight away and go, look at this, guys. We always want you to feel you're looked after. You can trust us. You talk to us all the time. You have that 360-degree care. And for me, these awards are just an extra badge of assurance. It's not just Joan saying it and you feeling it, but, some really bright people with some, real weight behind them are actually corroborating this. So
external validation, yeah.
External validation, which is always lovely for us, but I just think it's so powerful for our clients as well. So they know we're not just an expense line on their P&L, and also for potential clients at the same time too. So yeah, that's.
But even you've got clients who helped you with that award. I mean, not divulging anything that's private, but you actually had case studies to go with that award entry, and it's, as you say, it's not just about the award, but this is a great example of what client transformation really is, because we all say a lot of things and there's a lot of big words around, but actually client transformation, if you have real case studies, then that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, that's so right, Philippa. Honestly, we are blessed to have such lovely clients, and the guys that we work with. One of the things I can say is, I'm not a millionaire, guys. I'm not a millionaire by any stretch, but the people that we work with are lovely, and when they come, they stay, because it's heavy on the relational side and the trust side and the impact and outcome side. When it came to client transformation, what happened, and this was even before the Client Transformation Award, I actually didn't realise it existed until this year. But yeah, working with one of our superstar clients, they had an awful time last year, and it wasn't all down to them at all. Crazy interest rates, crazy fuel price shocks. Lots of things happened, 18 to 24 months ago now. It feels like yesterday sometimes. But because this client was already so brave in understanding the value of monthly management accounts, monthly momentum meetings focusing on the future, we were able to advise and see ahead of time that two major shocks were coming down to the business. So at the halfway point in the year, they undertook a significant restructure, which pulled them back online. So they took some really brave decisions and really quickly. And the only reason that they were able to be so confident about those decisions was because of the financials. And then unfortunately, a quarter later, their position moved again because a significant customer had delayed a significant sale. So once again, we were able to advise on this. They undertook a second restructure. And at one point, the cash position got really quite tentative. But what I'm absolutely delighted to say is that because of those brave decisions that those directors took, they were essentially able to save their business. Not only were they able to save the business, but the financials since then, that they're actually having a record year this year. And the financials were able to prove that the decisions that they took actually took the fat out of the business and not the muscle out of the business. So it was
That's brilliant.
just delightful to work with people and business owners like that.
And I'm assuming that your industry experience, certainly you mentioned Unilever. I mean, that's where, as we know really, you talk about structures and restructures all the time, and so there's that industry knowledge, isn't there, around what are the options, and I'm assuming you sort of drew on that experience in order to support them.
Yeah, absolutely, Philippa, that's so right. And I think as well, it's always really good to have half an eye in terms of what's happening within the industry too. So one of the other things that I like to do with key clients is to undertake some industry benchmarking. So it's a simple question of, okay, guys, maybe once a year. It's not something I say needs to happen, very, very regularly. But tell me who your top 3 competitors are at the moment. We can go to Companies House. Depending on the size of that competitor, we can see an awful lot of information. If the competitor is still submitting, 102A accounts, so it's pretty much the balance sheet, we can also use our calculations to work out some debtor days against the debtors, estimate what that turnover might be, and come up with some powerful ratio comparisons with key competitors too. And I just think always having half an eye on what's happening outside of a business is always good practice as well. And I've never known a client not be interested in that one Excel table that shows what they're doing and how they match versus some key competitors.
That is awesome. I've never heard of an accountant doing that before. It, as you say, it's not that difficult once you got into the swing of doing it. Yeah. I'm assuming it's an extra fee for clients for an extra service over and above what you're conventionally, or maybe you sell that as part of the package in the first place.
I actually have it included as part of the package, to be honest with you, Mark. So when we the way we work with our clients is I think it's super important that they actually do understand the numbers of their business. So, for example, when we complete a year end, which for a lot of our clients, it's not a shock. They know what numbers are coming. Year ends is a bit more of an administrative exercise. But what I will tend to do is, we will have a conversation or we'll have a meeting. We'll punctuate and celebrate those figures in the year end. But that's when we'll also have a look at that benchmark exercise as well.
Brilliant.
It is just a simple,
Yeah. It might be simple, but that comes again from your industry experience, which, when I was working in industry as well, there was always that desk research. There was always that kind of what are the competitors doing, and that really sophisticated analysis, which, as you say, then becomes a very, very small snapshot, but a very powerful one. And I think we have a couple of questions here around what makes you unique and what's the secret of your success, and I think you've actually verbalized that in giving that example. And what I would say is that anybody who comes with you, they basically have a real superpower person who has been in some of the largest businesses globally, who are actually doing that piece of work that the likes of Unilever would be doing all the time. So, I mean, they really are getting a lot of value.
Oh, Philippa, that's so nice of you to say. Do you know what drives me? What really drives me as well is because I was in a very high paid job in industry, and I stepped away from that because, like a lot of people, you build your family and you need to come up with a balance. And so, like a lot of my clients, I started a business, and a lot of that I had to learn and start from scratch as well. I am so passionate that entrepreneurs, SME business owners should be compensated and remunerated in a way that's commensurate with if they had a comparative job in industry, plus the value of their business for their risk and reward. So that's what drives me to do these things. That's why simple things like, let's have a look at what your competitors' turnover per employee looks like. Let's have a look at their gearing. Are they investing more than you? Do they have far more assets on their balance sheet? That's where that comes from.
Brilliant.
I think that is absolutely awesome. Yeah, I like you, Philip. I think within the conversation, we've picked up on what Joan's learned. We've picked up on some mistakes, and we've certainly picked up on something that I think probably makes Adams O'Rourke unique and singles you out compared to many other practices.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there any? Do you think there are any other secrets to your success, just to finish with?
Secrets to success. I think secrets to success, it does all come down to client relationship and client outcomes, because I don't generally tend to worry about the stickiness of my clients, because I know once they're in, they're good and they'll be fine. Even these last 2 weeks, I've spent pretty much speed dating all of my clients, talking to them about what might be happening on the 30th of October. If I know I'm drawing dividends before the 5th of April and I expect to be drawing them for all my clients, I'm ringing them up and going, by the way, we're going to do a mini hard close because you need to lock in some dividend tax rates before the 30th. And it's just thinking along those lines and knowing they're not just a client. They are working hard, doing what I do with my business and wanting to, achieve their ambitions like me and provide a lovely lifestyle for their families as well. So
Brilliant.
that's kind of where I'm coming from. I couldn't work with a transactional relationship. That's not the way. I wouldn't get joy or energy from that.
I think that's really, really key. Well said.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I really sort of have an emotional response to all of that, and certainly for the 30 minutes, and genuinely I could speak about it for another 30 minutes without problem, and I'm sure that people who are listening, and there are quite a few people saying hi, they would be on the edge of their seats as well. But as always, we must go. How can people find you, Joan? Because I'm sure there will be lots of people knocking at the door after this conversation.
Oh, no worries whatsoever. I think the best way to get in touch, if you've got any questions, absolutely fine to connect, is jump onto my LinkedIn profile, and that will be the quickest way for me to find you and to respond.
That's great and very sensible. Philippa, how can listeners find out more about you and Insight 101?
Yeah, well, go on LinkedIn as well, or find me on my website, www.insight101.co.uk, and we can set up a chat there. I mean, my mission ultimately is to support accountants and bookkeepers to stand out, and this is why we do the podcast, so that we can really celebrate these sorts of people. And stand out means knowing who your niche is, your ideal customer or client, knowing how you position yourself and what's different about you. That's what I'm all about. And I think, Joan, you've really kind of modeled that beautifully for me. So if anybody out there is really interested in sort of being able to nail that just like you have, then please get in touch. So Mark, how can listeners find out more about you and your Soul Practice Club?
Well, online everywhere. I'm Bookmark Lee. My website is Bookmark Lee. My business card is even a bookmark. If you ever meet me anywhere, always ask for one if you want a bookmark. I tend to support accountants running their own practice, and they're feeling isolated, frustrated, and overwhelmed. Some want one-to-one mentoring. Some appreciate the camaraderie and support from my Soul Practice Club. And just to say that I think Joan, when she talked about her niche not being an industry niche, I know that ties in very well with your style and approach as well, Philippa. You don't force people to find an industry niche into your clients.
Absolutely. Listen, there's a lot of love coming through for you, Joan, which is fantastic. It's a shame we can't all see them, but I can, and there's a lot of value coming through. So thank you for that. Anyway, so before we go, our thanks again to the sponsor of this episode, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. Do check out their website and let their CEO, Mayank, know you heard about Pinnacle Global on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast. Whew, that's a long sentence. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the love online, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And let us have your feedback too.
Absolutely. All those reviews and feedback do help to potentially broaden the reach of the podcast. And as I said earlier, do please contact either Philippa or myself if you'd like to be interviewed on a future podcast in 2025, or if there's someone you'd like to recommend that we interview. For now, though, so much again to our wonderful guest, Joan Adams, and my brilliant co-host, Philippa Haynes. Until next time on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast, or anywhere else we may meet online or in real life, goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.